Hey everybody, Victor here, and for today, as you can tell by the title of the video, it's time for another nation guide, but this one's slightly different. You see, this one's not for EU4, but Hearts of Iron 4. The reason why is because for most of last week I was in the hospital, and my doctors decided, for whatever reason that they can come up with, that I wasn't allowed to bring my entire desk into the hospital room so I can sit there and play EU4 30 to 50 times to make sure I had the best strategy for you guys. Instead, all I had was my phone, which meant I could watch YouTube. Here's the thing, No Step Back came out last week, so I got to watch pretty much everybody and their mother play Russia in the Civil War. And that entire time, I was sitting there wondering why nobody is going to do exactly what I'm going to show you. I couldn't figure out why they weren't doing it because it makes the war so much easier, or at least it should. And I couldn't figure it out. Well, finally, when I finally got out of the hospital, I came home, I booted up the game with the DLC and tried it, and lo and behold, it works. Pretty much every time. While there is a chance it might not work and be at the same time, it makes it so much easier. So let's go ahead and get started with my first ever Hearts of Iron 4 guide. This one for Soviet Union. Iron Man, historical AI, just because then it's quick and easy and you can see what I'm doing. Now, first things first. Let's go with the divisions, separate out the NKVD ones, put them there. You're going to take this group and you're going to set all of them on a fallback line just south of Leningrad to a couple of provinces outside of Moscow and then a couple outside of Stalingrad. This is going to be your primary fallback line. You're going to be setting out other ones out and further afield, but for the most part, this is what you're trying to protect. And you're going to set all of them like that over to infantry. Just get it done now, let them start shifting around. As far as the NKVD troops, this is going to depend on which focus you're going down. Now, I'm going to be going down the beaten but not defeated path, which means the NKVD troops are useless to me. The reason why I say that is because if you go and look at left and the right opposition, they have a focus here of infiltrate the NKVD. This will let you take some of these troops, if not all of them if you click enough times, and put them on your side of the war. Useful, but if you're going down the other path, the one that I will be going down, the beaten but not defeated, so I'm going to go ahead and start this, they do not have any way of making the NKVD their friends, meaning they're a liability, so I'm going to put them right there on the border with Poland, just because I don't want them to survive. Now that that's done, drill, and that's done for the army. For the factories, I personally would set it up like this because I find these to be the most important things. You can set it up however you want because you're going to try and get all of the equipment yourself. I'll explain why later. Next, you're going to then start building factories all up in this area. This is where you're going to be. You can build them wherever you want, but realistically, why help Stalin? There's no real reason to do that. And then the research, pick whatever you want. It has no bearing whatsoever on this at all. So do whatever you want. And at this point, it's time to unpause. Now, I will be using jump cuts because it's obviously easier to see what's going on when I'm not filtering you guys through just watching me sit and wait for a focus to finish. Because that's neither entertaining nor informative. So I will see you guys in just a few minutes. And welcome back. So as you can see, Stalin is starting to get a little paranoid. For some reason. There's no real reason to be paranoid, right, Stalin? But I now have 50 political power. Why? Because I waited a couple of days past the focus. You're going to have to as well. The reason you need 50 political power is because you are going to justify a war against Poland. Now, if you're in non-historical AI, now Poland has their own focus tree that can start a civil war. If that happens, obviously that means Poland might not be as useful for this, but more importantly, you may lose your war goal, which is very annoying. So at that instance, you have a couple of other choices that you can make instead. You can choose Turkey if you want, which will call in Romania, or if you don't care about some of your focuses, and I'm going to point out what they are, namely this one down here. This one will be fine, but these two, these over here, and these two will be skipped if you enter a war against a major. This does not count the Civil War, so long as they do not call in anyone from the Comintern. And I'll get to that in a little bit. But you do have the option of justifying against Yugoslavia if you want to kick the hornet's nest. This will bring in France, Czechoslovakia, Romania, and of course Yugoslavia, meaning you'll have a wasp's nest running through Russia, making it oh so fun to be Russia. So it's your call what you do. If you're in historical, just do Poland. It's easy. If you want to make sure you have the focuses in your non-historical, go with Turkey. And if you don't really care whatsoever, if historical or otherwise, just go after Yugoslavia. Just make it easy and do it that way. But with that, now that that's started, I'm going to go ahead and start on the next focus here. And basically you need to start beelining it to whatever focus it is that you're doing that will let you start expanding your influence. In my instance here, it is Embrace the Black Hundreds. I don't remember what it is for the other ones, but just go ahead and beeline it there. Don't take any other focuses between there and where you're at. As soon as you can, drop this down and forge once it hits 20. With that, time to pause again. See you guys soon. Okay, welcome back. So now that I've spent some time, and this does take some time, so sorry about this, but basically you're going to set up, as you can tell, little pockets. You're going to sit on these victory points to make sure that no one, not Poland, or Turkey and Romania, or all of them, can take these points. This goes all the way to Leningrad, Moscow, Stalingrad, and basically you're covering anything beyond 3 points. Obviously, the more they're valuable, the more you're putting them in there. More troops you're putting on it. Now, if you want, you can move the NKVD. In fact, I'm going to do that myself. You can move them to a little bit more of a vulnerable position away from everybody else so that they get wiped out. They will generally keep moving past these guys, and you want them to hopefully hang on as long as possible, and you're going to assign whoever is the strongest defensive guy that you have that can fit in these slots. The reason why is you absolutely need these guys to hang in there. Period. Now, we'll get into what you do after that later. There's a bit more you need to do before you need to worry about anything else when it comes to the Army, but I will get to that when I get to that. As far as the Air Force, take them all and just start drilling. Get some air experience. It's not going to be much because your Air Force is small, and you have one of these in here, I think this one, that will help. One of them ends up shortening down the air experience you get. But now that that is done, it is time to now finally focus on getting these things done. So I'll see you guys in just a few minutes. Hey, so I forgot to bring this up in the original recording. You are sitting on those points to prevent the points from falling before you fire the Civil War. The reason why is because if they take them, if Poland takes, say, Kiev before the Civil War, then that doesn't count towards Stalin's surrender limit, but yours. Meaning you have to push even more into what's remaining of the Soviet Union to get them to capitulate. So you can go ahead and leave a front line on Poland if you really want to. That works too, if you don't want to spend the time individually sorting things out. That said, there is a way to actually have it go back to Stalin, even if you decide to have the back fallback line, and just do it that way. Basically, after 50% surrender limit, you or the AI can just surrender to the enemy. And Stalin will do that to Poland every so often. Now, when that happens, Poland can't take anything. So it'll just flip back to you, except for probably a province or two deep along the front line. What that means is, if they've gotten to that point, you're likely able to capitulate Stalin so long as you prevent the main victory points of Leningrad, Moscow, Stalingrad from falling back to Stalin's hands. So any units you have in the West, have them sit on those points, and anything else that's major if you have the units, just to make sure they don't flip back. But that way you'll still be fine, because Stalin will still be divided between two fronts, and he will send half his troops just to push back the West while you're running mayhem and havoc in the East. So I just wanted to point out that's the general gist of this. So no matter which happens, it's fine. Just try and not let Poland run complete havoc unless you're planning and hoping that they take a white piece. So I'm going to go ahead and leave it there. Have a great day, guys. And welcome back. So I have the Embrace the Black Hundreds done. Now, whenever you get to this point, you're going to need to backfill. And what I mean by that is focus on one direction. So here I'm in Cheetah. If you're in Archangelisk, you'll be about there. Make sure you have this area taken out first before you start expanding in another direction. The reason why is you want to have one solid front line. Here, a good example is if I push north and then west, I'll have all of this land open. Stalin gets troops. Not just the normal army, but he actually gets spawned troops. They spawn for him. And if you leave areas open, they can spawn in there. So be aware, if you leave open land, you're leaving open somebody to spawn in there and then slowly start walking to your capital and cap you. Especially if you leave open a place like Vladivostok that actually has a naval base to get supply out of. So just be aware, don't do that. Focus here, then up here, and only then go west. Other than that, next is approach Semenov. This will give you cavalry units, and it's actually where you're going next. And then also, you're going to try and get as much paranoia as you can before this is done. I'll explain why if I can show you it, but by showing it to you visually, if it doesn't work, I'll then explain it to you. So I will see you guys in just a second. And welcome back. So I just got done with the approach Semenov, and that will let me recruit these cavalry. Now, if you notice, some of them are in Manchuria, and you need to focus on that, because if you look, here you can recruit Manchurian cavalry. These are Siberian cavalry, and there is actually a difference. Siberian cavalry has one less cavalry unit in the template than Manchurian ones do, meaning Manchurian ones are just better. Now, if you did notice, not every province is going to have cavalry in it. You're in fact not going to get any cavalry until you're up here in this area and then going out west. Meaning, by taking this early, you're able to keep up and eventually be even with these. Now that that focus is done, go to covert operations so you can start framing people for being what you are. And make sure you're not the one that catches the bullet. So I'm going to go ahead and pause it again. See you guys in just a minute. So welcome back real quick. I forgot to mention, these right here, you don't need to do them. No true Russian would ever give up an inch of the motherland for volunteers, arms, or factories. They're not going to do that. Russians do it the hard way. Do it the hard way. There's no reason to give up even Sakhalin here. You can if you want to, but you don't need to. So keep that in mind. It's a choice, not a necessity. So, moving on. See you soon. And welcome back. So, I'm able to show it to you now. As you can see, I'm at 80 paranoia, meaning this is going to add 30. Now, if you ever hit 100, you instantaneously start a civil war. It's what happens. But here's two things you need to be aware of. First, I'm going to unpause it. Okay. And there we go. Now, as you can tell, I'm not in a civil war yet. The reason why is it takes one more hour after this hits for you to start a civil war. Second, if you notice, I went from 80, this added 30, but it caps at 100. Now, this removes 50, but the moment I click this, it's back down to 50. In other words, there's no overflow. So if you can spike that above 70, you're removing the excess. So go ahead, get to 80, 85. I got it to 89 once, so I didn't have a risk of a civil war just randomly firing. Meaning, I lost extra paranoia that I would have had otherwise. The other thing to keep in mind, as you can tell, I turned on a specific setting, and I recommend you turn on pause on notifications. Just so you remember where it is, go to game options, game, pause on notifications. The reason why is if you don't have that, the likelihood you're going to pause exactly on that hour so you don't end up starting a civil war doing that is very high. So be aware and don't do that. But that being said, it is now time to keep doing exactly what I've been doing and expanding my influence. I have all of this stuff done, so now after Sakhalin, it's time to start moving in this direction. So I will see you guys. Oh, time to frame some people in just a little bit. Welcome back. So, war goal is now done. Stop the training. You can go ahead and let the NKVD train because it's not going to matter. You're going to make certain that they don't survive their training. Give yourself a couple of days just to get your organization back up. And now here is kind of the key. You're going to mass train, a bunch of units. And I mean a massive amount of units. And put them as the priority. You're not going to let any more of your equipment go to these guys. The reason why is they're not going to make it out of here. Period. They're not going to make it. Once you are ready, and you have enough organization, yeah, that's close enough. Go ahead and declare. And Poland will start running amok and having fun. Go ahead and attack with your NKVD to make sure they have as little organization as possible so they get annihilated. And then go back to doing exactly what you have been doing. Nothing else has changed in that regard. Now you just have Poland going on tour throughout Russia. So I'll see you guys in just a second. Alright, welcome back, guys. So I wanted to show you this real quick. As you can see, I'm able to frame people now. I don't have the political power for it, but I can frame them if I wanted to. And as you can see, I can't frame an admiral. The reason why is I require them to not have the monarchist sympathizer trait or the Stalinist trait. And if you look, I do have admirals, but they all have the Stalin trait. So if I wanted to be able to end up framing an admiral, I just have to go down here and click this button. I bring this up because sometimes Stalin, for whatever reason, will focus heavily on doing this. Meaning, you'll be sitting there with 25 cost, not able to frame an admiral. So hiring an admiral in that instance, even though it's command power, which you can get to get cavalry, might be worth it. So I just wanted to point that out in case it happens to you. But with that being said, as you can see, my armies here are getting kind of hit. But Poland hasn't breached too deeply, which is perfectly fine for me. With that, time to pause it again. See you guys in just a second. And welcome back. So it looks like the NKVD troops were very, very impolite and decided not to be destroyed. But it is now one day away from the start of the Civil War, and before the hands do what the hands that do, you're going to delete all of your troops. You're going to go in here and you're going to delete all of these troops as well, sending all of your equipment back into here. Every single bit of it. You are then going to immediately go in here and you're going to send a Lend-Lease. You're going to have to unpause it for a couple hours. And then send everything you can. Now, I learned this from Feedback Gaming. So, if you see this, and I do leave credit where credit is due, this is absolutely his. And I'm going to be carding one of the videos that I saw this in at the top. So, Feedback, you're awesome. Enjoy the channel. Keep doing what you're doing. Now, once you have all of this set up, go ahead and send it to him. And now you're simply going to wait until this is done. Once it triggers, and there we go, 2 arms. And there we go. Nope, pause it. Now go back to China, and then modify it and clear all, and it'll be sent back to you. So you have all of the equipment. The reason you are doing this is, simply put, if you look at under the Decisions tab before all this happened, and unfortunately I forgot to show you, it's going to show about 40%, meaning you get about 40% of the ships, of the army, and the air force. And it'll break down what you're getting. Here's the problem. Why get only 40% of the troops if you can have none, because there are none? And why get 50% of the stockpile if you can have 100%? So just delete the troops, do this, and you're able to keep all of the equipment so that now you can go in here and just start spamming troops. If you want, you can go in here and Division Designer, new, put in one guy, train this up, and then edit the template, which I highly recommend doing, because now you're going to be able to get every single guy out there that you need to have out there to win this fight with no difficulty. In fact, I'm just going to make him a 5 and artillery. There we go. And you should have all of the equipment you need for that. You just need manpower, which, trust me, you'll find. You're Russia. You will find manpower. Now, at this point, before they all start spawning, take all of your troops and put them on this border. You're going to have a few extra, so break that off. Put it on anything that you weren't able to get, which I was not able to get this little pocket here. With any luck, there's going to be no troops there. And set every one of your guys to aggressive. The fact is, you're in Siberia. There is no supply. I got the railway done, and there's still probably not going to be any supply. Meaning, they're not going to move unless I force them to. Given that, obviously, go in there and make certain that they're going to actually move. So I'm going to go in here, and because I don't actually have the manpower, find out exactly where the manpower cuts off and bring the rest of them, cancel the rest of them. So it looks like I can get about 60 out. So I'm going to go ahead and take care of those and let this keep going. And if you can tell, Poland lost its borderlands. It doesn't have them anymore. And they can't because they won't take it from me. Poland has a habit of doing this. Romania and Turkey, well, Romania will accept military access from me in the middle of this fight. Meaning they're not able to push at this point. You have to wait until Russia pushes back. Once they do that, you're golden. Now here's the thing I wanted to point out before I unpause it, because somebody's going to see it and freak out. They're going to see that they're already half capped. The reason why is whatever's going on here, it's assuming all the victory points that Poland is sitting on come from you, not from the Soviet Union. This is why you sit on the victory points as much as possible, so that when this does fire, you have a little bit of land here, but not much. They'll push it back, because they also get spawned troops, as I said before, and then Poland will keep going, taking such as things like Kiev from the Soviet Union and forcing them into a quick collapse. You'll have a couple of units down here that are not part of your normal army. They'll just spawn over here for whatever reason. Just start sending them to start snaking. In this case, since they're up north, I'm going to send both of these guys up to get Leningrad and the other one to get Stalingrad. They get them maybe, but I doubt it. And the next focus that you're going to get is call for aid. If you read it, what this does is these three countries are going to get volunteer force requirement. And they're more likely to send you volunteers. This is an amazing thing to have. So, as a result, if you're in historical, Japan generally won't because they'll be in a war, but Germany and Italy will send you about 7 to 10 divisions in total. The reason why this is nice is because of 2 reasons. 1, they'll help you fight the Soviets. That's obvious. But 2, they don't leave until your war is done. Not with the Soviets, but every war you are in. Meaning that all these small little tags that spit out of the Soviet Union, you can declare on them too, and you'll be fine. And because I forgot to say this and forgot to do it, I will point out the Comintern survives in this patch. Kick out Tanutuva and Mongolia before it happens, because I forgot to, and they can call them into this war. The reason why that matters, thankfully it doesn't matter to me, but it will matter to you, is that once they do, if they call in Tanutuva or Mongolia, it will trigger Russia being a major, and it will prevent you from getting this focus and any of these focuses, because this only triggers after the Civil War is started. Meaning, any war after that that involves a major. And if they call in either of those 2 countries, you will be at a war that involves a major that has started after you went into the Civil War. Again, they're removing it next patch, so hopefully you won't have to remember that, but I've done this about 10 times and I forgot it about half the time. So you can do that day 1, you can do that at some point, just try and not forget like I do. Don't pull a me. And with that, I'll get more troops out. Any of them that are close, I'm going to bring in. And it looks like those are the only ones that are close. All the other ones, oh, looks like I have some that are in the back row. Add them to the army that's back here. Any of them that are way out in the middle of nowhere, they're going to have, or over here, they're going to have to be added to the, so I don't get a notification army. There we go. And time to unpause. So I'm going to go ahead and pause the recording. I'll see you guys in a few minutes. And welcome back. So, war's over, and I have taken all states. Yeah, Poland did a vast majority of that work, but because it's a civil war, he can't take anything. Meaning, now all I have to do is walk in and clean up the rest of it. And I have all these armies to do it with. I lose the spawn troops, some of them, the peasants I think is what they're termed. But now, it really doesn't matter. Now I can just simply drop down my field marshal, drop down my other field marshal, and by the way, none of these guys are trained. Spit them out untrained. It really doesn't matter that much, because the whole point is to make sure there's no gaps in the field, and that's about it. Put down a front line, they'll run over there, and they'll start to push. And you should be fine with that. Keep misclicking on that. Aggressive, aggressive, go and go, and you should be fine. Now here's the last thing I really want, oh, as I said before, Germans and Italians are still here to help me fight the evil Ukrainians, Crimeans, Armenians, and Czechs? Or, I don't know. Chechens. The last thing I wanted to point out, though, you're fighting these guys, and absolutely pick the option to fight them. Here's why. If you choose to wait, you do have a focus later, and you can choose to do that if you really want. It's over here. You have to go through Consolidate Power, and then you can do these. And this is either, it'll give you a bunch of war goals, or here, it'll give you the option of they become your puppet voluntarily, or they refuse and you can get a war goal. Here's the problem. The Allies, by the time you get there, are going to guarantee them. They won't guarantee them if you fight them now. Meaning you're able to get them and secure them, and the Allies won't interfere. So do it now before the Allies get to interfere. The other thing I want to point out is I'm going to point out after I'm done with this war. So I'm going to go ahead and fight it, and I will see you guys when I'm done. And welcome back. So Ukraine is down, and they're the ones I was really waiting for. When it comes to the puppets that can break free, there's two of them that are incredibly useful. There's Ukraine and there's Belarus. The reason why is Belarus will come out and they'll be right here. They're not large, but they cover this area. Give me 1 second. I'm going to puppet Ukraine, and then apparently I can't do that for some reason. I don't understand why that is the case, but there we go. Here's the thing. If you go in here, and I wanted to show you this real quick, you can't release territories. You can't. In order to do this, you have to complete a focus that you do not have on this side of the focus tree. It's just not there. Meaning, if you go down this side, you can't release Ukraine or Belarus. Now, for those that aren't aware of why this matters, it's this is a Belarusian, so is this, this, and this. You just spent a couple of years that the Soviet Union typically has to prepare for Germany attacking, fighting yourself. Meaning you're not necessarily going to be as strong as you would if you went the Stalinist path. You may have to deal with the fact you don't have the raring, ready-to-go industry that you have otherwise. Which means if they attack Poland, they can then walk into you. However, by having Ukraine as a puppet, or Belarus and Ukraine as a puppet, you are narrowing what this actual front would be. By having Ukraine, even if Romania's in the Axis and all this, they can only attack me right here. And if I take out the Baltic countries, as long as I leave Lithuania or Latvia alive, they can't go that way either. Meaning I have a very, very narrow front line that I can absolutely stack up and fortify beyond anything the Germans can push through until I'm ready to start pushing them back, making it very easy to hold. And if I want to, you can, while you can't release them, I can still integrate them and annex them diplomatically. But with that, you all should be good to go. If you like this kind of content, like and subscribe. I'd be more than happy to do more HOI4 stuff, but I typically do EU4. So if you want to see EU4 guides, like and subscribe. You will absolutely be seeing more of that. Otherwise, just leave a comment below. Let me know what you guys want to see, because I'd be happy to make it. But thank y'all for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you have tons of fun bringing back the Romanovs, or following the Patriarch and reestablishing the Third Rome. But have a great day, everybody. Thanks for watching.